Could years of whispers finally be true? After endless speculation and countless denials, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo have broken their silence, revealing a truth that has left fans stunned and the industry reeling. Behind the polished smiles and red carpet poise lies a love story that refused to stay hidden any longer. What really happened between these two stars who defined an era of Korean drama? Let's uncover the secret that everyone's been waiting to hear. Flashbulbs struck like summer lightning the night the secret finally broke. For years the two names had moved through the same orbit, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo. Separate stars whose gravity kept drawing them into the same headlines, the same rumors, the same wistful what-if. When they stepped onto the balcony of a Seoul charity gala and smiled into the same camera, the internet didn't explode so much as ignite. After all this time, one fan tweeted, "It's real." Neither actor spoke at first. Their agencies posted the familiar line, "Close colleagues," but the way their eyes met in that single frame told another story. The silence between them hummed louder than any statement could. Later, a handwritten note appeared on both of their official pages. Simple. Unrehearsed. "We've spent years choosing our words carefully," it read. "Now we choose honesty." Minutes, servers crashed. That confession became the spark for every headline from Seoul to New York. To understand why it mattered, you had to trace the quiet years, the missed chances, the polite denials, the two lives that seemed to mirror one another without ever touching. They met long before anyone realized it. A film festival after-party. A shared laugh over bad coffee. A phone left behind and returned with a thank you message that never quite ended. What followed wasn't a whirlwind but a long orbit of restrained, different projects. Different continents. 1,000 kilometers of silence wrapped around a private understanding. When the rumors first surfaced, they laughed him off. He was filming overseas, she was signing another endorsement. They had no reason to correct what wasn't true yet. But with every interview, every journalist asking, "Would you ever work together?" The line between denial and longing blurred. Now, sitting together in a small studio for their first joint interview, the air between them felt lighter, almost tender. Song Hye Kyo folded her hands and smiled. Didn't fall in love on a schedule. It happened quietly. Like exhaling after years of holding your breath. Lee Min-ho added. The hardest part wasn't keeping it secret, it was pretending it didn't mean everything. They spoke not like celebrities unveiling a scandal, but like two people finally allowed to speak their native language. For the first time in memory, the audience listening wasn't hungry for gossip, they were hungry for truth. The rest of their confession wasn't about red carpets or contracts. It was about the moments fans never see, the empty hotel rooms, the half-written messages, the fear that honesty could end careers. Privacy, she said, wasn't about hiding. It was about protecting something fragile until it was strong enough to stand. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, the story had shifted. It was no longer a revelation, it was a relief. The night air above the river was thick with flashbulbs. Reporters had gathered outside the Grand Seoul Hall for the charity gala, expecting another round of designer guns and polite smiles. No one expected the door on the upper balcony to open. At first there was only a silhouette, tall, calm, a shape the city knew as clearly as its skyline. Then another figure stepped beside him, her silver dress catching the floodlights like moonlight drawn into human form. For one suspended heartbeat, the crowd forgot to breathe. He leaned closer, saying something that the wind carried away. She laughed, softly, a sound too private for microphones. The cameras below clicked in disbelief. After years of rumors and denials, Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo were standing together, unmasked by distance or timing. Inside the hall, the orchestra's music faltered, even the maitre d' craned his neck toward the balcony. The pair didn't flinch. Instead, they turned toward the noise, fingers brushing once before settling apart again, a gesture so restrained it was more intimate than a kiss. When they finally descended the stairs, the red carpet erupted. Questions flew like sparks. Is it true? Are you together? How long? Lee Min-ho paused halfway down. The corner of his mouth lifted. We've been friends for a very long time, he said, voice steady. Then, after a breath that seemed to last years, he added, and friendship sometimes grows. Song Hye Kyo met his glance. We just decided to stop hiding our happiness, she said. The calm in her tone silenced even the most jaded reporters. That was all it took, 2 sentences, and the world tilted. By midnight, The internet had dissolved into chaos. Headlines multiplied faster than servers could handle. The rumors were true. The Queen and the King of K-drama confirm love. Memes, fan edits, conspiracy threads, a digital storm of disbelief and delight. But behind the noise, inside the quiet of the limousine carrying them away from the cameras, reality felt smaller and strangely fragile. Tinted windows held back the flash, turning the city into a blur of color. Song Hye Kyo removed her earrings with shaking hands. "I thought my heart would explode," she whispered. In-ho laughed, low and incredulous. "You looked calm." "I wasn't. I've never been calm around you." Side, fans chased a car for a block before giving up. Their chants faded, replaced by the hum of traffic. He reached for her hand, hesitated, then intertwined his fingers with hers. "He finally said it," he murmured. "After all these years," she replied. "Do you think they'll forgive us for lying?" He turned to her, the city lights carving gold lines across his face. "We never lied. We just waited until it was ours to tell." Our stopped at a riverside bridge where their driver knew to pause, an unspoken habit from the early days when secrecy was survival. The Han River shimmered beneath them, carrying reflections like memory. "This place hasn't changed," she said. "You have," he answered. "You stopped running." She smiled faintly. "So did you." For a while they said nothing. The noise of the crowd belonged to another world now. One built on guesswork and distance. Here was only the soft rhythm of water and two people who had finally stepped out of their own story. When she rested her head on his shoulder, he pulled out his phone. Notification from his manager flashed across the screen. Already, the agencies were coordinating statements. Damage control. He locked the phone again. "Let them handle it," he said. "For once, we don't have to." In that moment, Seoul felt quieter. The wind coming off the river smelled of rain and magnolia blossoms. He thought of the years they'd spent pretending not to see each other, award shows, interviews, parallel flights, and how every denial had built a wall between truth and peace. Tonight, that wall had finally fallen. The first drops of rain touched the window. She laughed again. "We always end up in the rain." He looked at her, memorizing the way the water traced her reflection. "Maybe that's why it always felt like a movie," he said. She reached for his hand once more. "Let's promise one thing." "What?" "No more scripts. From now on, our own scenes." He nodded. The rain thickened, drumming softly on the roof like applause from an invisible audience. For once, neither of them had to perform. As the car pulled away from the bridge, behind them blazed with headlines. But inside the quiet cabin, there was only the faint warmth of intertwined hands, proof that sometimes the most dramatic confession isn't shouted from a stage but whispered in the calm after the storm. Dawn broke over Seoul like 1,000 camera flashes. The city was already awake, with disbelief. Every news channel replayed the same clip from the balcony, the look, the laughter. The two silhouettes standing together above the crowd. Inside a small apartment miles from the noise. The curtains were drawn. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through a flood of headlines. Love confirmed. No longer rumors. The couple that broke the internet. Stirred beside him, hair tangled, voice still soft with sleep. "Is it bad?" He turned the phone so she could see. "It's everything." For a long moment neither spoke. Outside, his heartbeat drummed through the windows. She reached for his hand, her thumb tracing the lines on his palm. "It would be loud," she said. "We just didn't know it would sound like thunder." He smiled faintly. "At least thunder fades." By noon the agencies had issued official statements, carefully worded paragraphs that managed to sound sincere and sanitized at the same time. Yet between every corporate sentence lived the same truth: they were tired of hiding. He brewed coffee while she scrolled through messages. Were blessings. Others sharp enough to cut. How could she? Why now? "I always knew." She set the phone down. "Talk like they own pieces of us." He handed her a mug. "They only know the versions we sold them." They drank in silence, watching sunlight slide across the floor. For the first time in years, they had nowhere to be. No script to memorize, no instructions. Just the quiet weight of a decision finally made. Around lunchtime, the first phone call came, from a director begging them to appear together in a commercial, promising to donate part of the proceeds to charity. was from an international magazine offering an exclusive cover story. Their phones buzzed until they switched them off completely. Opened the balcony door. The air smelled of rain and exhaust. Familiar and clean. "You know," he said. "Yesterday I was terrified. I thought we'd lose everything." "Did we?" she asked. He looked back at her. "We lost the illusion. I don't miss it." She stepped outside with him. From up here the city looked smaller, almost gentle. As if it too had finally exhaled. Cars glittered like fish scales below. Somewhere a busker's guitar drifted upward through the noise. "Do you ever wonder how it would have been if we'd told the truth earlier?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "We weren't ready. Love needs room to grow before the world points at it." He nodded. "Now it has room." The afternoon passed slowly. They cooked about nothing. Laughed about everything. It was strange. How ordinary life felt after the world had tilted. He watched her move around the kitchen, barefoot, humming a tune that had no name. It struck him that this, simple, unfilmed, was the real confession. When evening came, they sat by the window, watching neon signs bloom to life. Across the street a billboard flashed their faces from separate campaigns shot months ago. Two different worlds now stitched together by truth. Whispered, "We've become a headline again." He shook his head. "No. We've become a story worth remembering." Her eyes met his, steady and bright. "Then let's write the ending ourselves." He raised his glass to hers. "To honesty. To peace," she added. They clinked gently, the sound small but certain. Later, when the city finally quieted, they returned to the balcony where it had all begun. The rain had stopped, leaving the rail damp and cool beneath their fingers. Somewhere in the distance, fireworks from another celebration painted brief bursts of color against the clouds. He leaned close. "You realize we can't take this back." "I don't want to," she said. "Let them talk. For once. The noise is about something real." He smiled. "So what now?" He looked out over the lights. "Thinking. We work. We live. We stop running." The simple certainty in her voice felt heavier than any promise. He slipped his arm around her shoulders. For a long time they just stood there, two people no longer defined by mystery, but by the quiet choice to be seen. Below them, the river shimmered, carrying reflections of the city's heartbeat. Above them, the sky cleared to a thin blue promise. Tomorrow would bring interviews, schedules, perhaps regret. But tonight, only calm. She turned toward him. "Do you think love always has to survive the spotlight?" He answered without hesitation. "If it forgets how to glow in the dark." She laughed softly, resting her head against him. "Then we'll be fine." When they finally went inside, the lights of the city kept flickering through the curtains, like applause from a world that, at last, knew the truth. Weeks passed, and the noise of headlines began to fade. The world, once obsessed with their every glance and gesture, slowly moved on to new stories, new faces, distractions. But for them, silence was not emptiness, it was peace. They no longer needed to hide behind the gloss of perfection or the safety of rehearsed words. What remained was something simple and strong, two people who had learned that truth, once spoken, doesn't destroy, it liberates. One evening, as the sun melted into the Han River, she looked at him and smiled. "Do you ever regret it?" He shook his head. "No. Because even if it all ends tomorrow, at least we were real today." City lights flickered. 1,000 little confessions glowing in the dark. And somewhere in the distance, a quiet breeze carried their laughter across the water, light, free, and unafraid. Their story wasn't about fame or scandal anymore. It was about courage, the courage to love honestly in a world that sells illusion. Thank you for reading this story. It's more than just a tale of two people, it's a reminder that truth always finds its voice. And love, when genuine, survives even under the harshest spotlight. To everyone who believes in slow, steady, unspoken love, this story is for you. Because sometimes, the most powerful confessions aren't made in front of cameras. They're whispered in the quiet, between two hearts finally brave enough to be heard.